I'm a bad motherfucker.
Well, here's the deal. About, well, do I have a story about Israel today that I can talk about this then? Maybe. I do have a story on intermittent fasting.
Yeah, you do.
But anyway, so let's get to this. So there was a terror attack in Moscow, right? Which George Galloway calls the greatest city in all of Europe. And they're now blaming immediately. The United States knew it was ISIS. 2 years later, they don't know who did the Nord Stream pipeline bombing, but they knew the next day that this was ISIS. And so the thing that's interesting, so they the death count's, I think, close to 200 now. I think I saw yesterday it was 115 were confirmed, but that's way higher now. So these terrorists went to this. On March 7th, there was a security alert. Avoid large gatherings over the next 40 hours in Moscow, Russia. Where did that come from? That came from the U.S. Embassy and consulates. And so that came from the State Department. So how did the United States government know about this? Well, let's watch this. So there were gunmen in combat fatigues. They opened fire at a Moscow concert hall and then engulfed it in flames. And there's now, I've heard close to 200 deaths, but don't quote me on that. But here we go. Watch this.
I've also seen, hopefully you saw our...
So now this is Kirby, White House spokesperson, and he's going to warn people about this terror attack that's coming.
I've also seen, hopefully you saw the State Department or embassy there, put out a notice to all Americans in Moscow to avoid any large gathering, concerts, obviously shopping malls, anything like that, just for their own safety. They should stay put where they are and stay plugged into the State Department for any additional updates and information.
So what? Avoid any large gathering, concert, shopping malls. That's exactly what happened. So then after the attack, they were asked, "Hey, how'd you know about this?" And watch this.
Not aware of any advanced knowledge that we had of this terrible attack.
We didn't have any advanced knowledge of this thing that we predicted exactly that would happen. We didn't have any advanced knowledge. That's what he's saying. Watch this.
On March 8th, the embassy warns of imminent attack in Moscow by extremists.
Yeah, I think that I'll let the State Department speak to that. But I don't think that was related to this specific attack. Really.
So Putin knows who did it. So this is, to me, this is an obvious CIA. The CIA has used ISIS. We've propped up ISIS. We've basically invented ISIS, the United States government. We funded them. We funded Al-Qaeda, the whole thing. Hillary Clinton admitted that we invented them on video in her testimony to Congress once. So again, we need to have an ISIS. We need to have an Al-Qaeda for many different reasons, but certainly was to help overthrow the Syrian government. So that's why we funded the shit out of them. So here's President Putin confirms that the Moscow terror attack was committed by radical Islamists, but that he is more interested in who ordered them to do it. Putin believes a state actor or an intelligence agency could be responsible. You think? So here, holy shit, who is to benefit? The crime can only be a link. This is what Putin said. The crime can only be a link in a chain of attempts by those who are at war with our country since 2014. Well, who did? That's when they overthrew the government, and the CIA overthrew the democratically elected government in Ukraine. That's what happened in 2014. So it sounds to me like Putin's pointing the finger at Ukraine, which of course is acting under the auspices of the United States and the CIA. Putin is referring to Obama's State Department and CIA who overthrew Ukraine. That would be Victoria Nuland. Putin is blaming the deep state.
Who is to benefit? This crime can only be a link in a chain of attempts by those who are at war with our country since 2014.
So there it is. Here is Russian media executive Margaret Samoyan says it was not ISIS, but the West themselves who committed the terrorist attack in Moscow. The individuals behind this operation were purposely selected to be passed off as members of ISIS. This is not new that the CIA, the Mossad, they do these things, right? Isn't it funny that ISIS hasn't attacked Israel? Isn't that funny? That's weird that ISIS hasn't attacked Israel over their slaughter of the Gazan people, the Palestinians. Isn't that weird? But they're attacking Moscow. Isn't that weird? Here's what Scott Ritter says. The evidence points to Ukraine and the CIA in Moscow terror attack. If this was something, but this can't be the CIA because Jake Uger and camel toe enthusiast Anna Kasparian told me that they don't do this stuff anymore.
Unless the CIA did this just to troll TYT. That's what this was. It was a giant troll.
Giant troll. Here, Scott Ritter says, if this was something planned by Ukraine, then it means it was something planned by Ukraine under the direction of the CIA to carry out an American policy objective which seeks the strategic defeat of Russia, the former U.S. Marine intelligence officer said in a video comment for Sputnik. So here is Victoria Nuland, and this is before she quit. And now I'm hearing that she got fired because she engineered this terror attack. But here's what she was promising a couple of weeks before this terror attack happened.
Mr. Putin's going to get some nice surprises on the battlefield. And
he's going to get some nice surprises. And here she was just a little while after that saying the same thing. Watch this. Okay, here we go.
with this money, Ukraine will be able to fight back in the east, but it will also be able to accelerate the asymmetric warfare that has been most effective on the battlefield. And as I said in Kyiv 3 weeks ago, this supplemental funding will ensure Putin faces some nasty surprises on the battlefield.
That is one evil smile. So there she is twice saying that. And by the way, it's Kiev. It's not Kyiv. Nobody eats chicken Kyiv. So now I'm being told that one of the reason why she's out is because she planned this thing, this provocation with Russia, and that was a bridge too far. She shouldn't have done that. And who's saying this? Well, here's this guy, Tony Shaffer. He's a New York Times bestselling author, a retired Department of Defense intel operative. So here's what he has to say.
I mean, to Victoria Nuland herself, Tory, as they call her, State Department, had many friends, and people saw her as a very warm and nice person to hang out with. And
the genocidal maniacs inside the State Department. That's just like everybody in Hitler's house thought that Goebbels was a great guy. So here we go.
She's gone now, and I think part of the reason she's gone is because she had made direct threats to Vladimir Putin and the Russians. That's all on tape, and she's very direct in her saying that Putin is going to get quote-unquote surprises. So, let's start with that as a start point. And then you move up to the 7 March warning. And I don't know if you saw it. Diamond John Kirby was there at the White House saying, oh, well, we don't know we didn't have any threat information behind our putting out a warning on 7 March. What? You just randomly put a warning out saying, hey, don't show up at concerts in Moscow, may be bad. Oh, yeah, we don't know why we put that out. We just put it out.
Look, and I'll say this as a guy who was an expat for many years, that usually when you see warnings like that coming out of the embassy or coming out of the State Department, they are not that specific. This one specifically said concerts, specifically said extremist groups. That's like, you knew something, and that was a slight, that's it, you and I, since we've dealt with declassification, that was somebody had a report, could have been a walk-in, whatever it was, we don't know, and they said, all right, we're going to declassify just enough of this to put it out to the public. Right. That was based on a report 100%.
And there's a requirement for us to warn people, absolutely. There's requirements to warn, there are, and I've been in that seat, you have too, so you have to do that. So, now they're saying, oh, we had no specific threat. Okay. So it's just this breadcrumb of like, really? It's like there's that 1990 song, Things That Make You Go, And it's like, wow. And so when you look at this, and then you look at what John Kirby has said and others have said, and Jake Sullivan, when's the last time, Jack, you and I saw this immediate response with all the details? Oh, yeah, 9/11. Within 48 hours, they've listed out all the 9/11 hijackers. Gee, it's really strange how the U.S. government can be so completely naive to things, but have all the details within 48 hours. And you and I both know, as intelligence professionals, you don't gather that information that quickly without already having a head start.
Let me play one more thing for you.
Ukraine did. And here's how we know. March 7th, the United States Embassy, Moscow, and the UK Embassy, Moscow, issue a warning to a travel advisory to all Americans and British citizens. Stay away, there's going to be a terrorist attack within 48 hours. Now, that didn't happen. But I used to be, that was my job. That was part of my job when I was at state in counterterrorism. Those kinds of warnings are only issued when you have specific, credible information and cannot prevent the attack. Now, usually in those circumstances, if it had enough specificity and was really solid, we would pass it off to...
That's him?
Yeah, that's him.
That is. We would pass that information off to the other government and let them take action to prevent it. It wouldn't happen. But in this case, what we've had in the last day on Open Source Intelligence Defender, it's one of those Twitter channels, very much a part of
that's probably Victoria Nuland.
Propaganda.
You better watch what the fuck you say.
They put out that the U.S. National Security Council and the White House are becoming increasingly frustrated by, quote, unauthorized brazen actions, end quote, taken by Ukraine against Russia. So this means the United States knew that Ukraine had something in the pipeline. They knew they had some idea what they're going to do. And the odds are that not only did Ukraine do it, but they did it with weapons and assistance provided by the United States. Oh, that's what's got the White House scared to death.
So this is a direct attack, a terrorist attack inside Moscow that was funded and directed by the United States. And so it looks like the people inside the State Department are pissed off at Victoria Nuland for doing this, which is why she's out. And they didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
The 9/11 example that the guy gave, it's true. Not only did they know who did it, basically as it was happening, because I remember that day, that very day, they said they knew who did it.
Yeah.
But there was also in that example, obviously, the State Department memo that said weeks prior, Bin Laden determined to attack inside the United States using airplanes. Once again, a very specific warning weeks in advance of the actual attack happening. The other thing, that Jackson Hinkle tweet that you showed, where I think he quoted that woman saying that these were meant to look like ISIS recruits. What lends credence to that, in my opinion, is that these guys were paid. They weren't suiciders. They didn't go down with the ship.
Right.
They were paid and then they tried to flee. That's not characteristic of radical ISIS fighters.
And so now the United States is blaming it on a thing called ISIS-K.
Oh, boy.
Right, which is, I guess, you have to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and now we're at the K. We're at ISIS-K. So,
it's
sounds like a breakfast
ISIS
cereal.
Variant, like the SARS-CoV-2 of ISIS. Yeah.
So just so you know that this is from Business Insider. This is from, when is this from? That's from back in 2015. One of ISIS top commanders was a star pupil of the U.S. Special Forces training in the country of Georgia. Just so you know that I'm not making this up. When I say, I showed you in another segment about Jake Uger and camel toe enthusiast Anna Kasparian saying that the CIA doesn't do this stuff anymore. I showed you how the CIA was funding ISIS or al-Nusra or al-Qaeda in Syria, and the Pentagon was funding another Islamist terrorist group, and they were fighting each other often. So we're the ones who are, and what would it be in it for us to prop up Islamic terrorists? Well, because then they could go do our dirty work for us. Wherever we need to have a terror attack, they could go do it for us. Like where? Syria. They could do they could do gas attacks on the Syrian people and then blame it on Assad. And here is a piece. Now watch this. Now I can't swear, I can't vouch for the veracity of this, but I found this very interesting. I found this on Twitter. this is a video that purports to say this ISIS commander was captured in Libya and revealed to be an Israeli Mossad agent. So let's watch this. You ever see this? Is that your real name? And what is your fake name in Libya? He's Mohammed Yasser Abu Allah. That's his fake name. And what's your religion? Jewish. What's your job? First Brigade of the Mossad. When did you join the Mossad? In 2002. When did you come into Libya? In 2012. So this isn't a new game, is what I'm saying. I'm showing you this isn't a new game. Eden, let me bring you in. What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, that particular video, I like you said, I'm not sure either. They could test him. They could say Christ is king, and then if he bites the guy's nose off, then you know he's really Israeli. That's one way they could get the truth out of him. Let you know if that's for real. Okay. But the other part of this is like, look, the timing of this is that Russia is on the verge of being able to formally declare victory in Ukraine. We can't get money out the door to Ukraine. The average age of the Ukrainian soldiers now well into the 40s. They're low on weapons. They're low on men. And so this is a way to put Russia back on its heels right at the moment that they're about to lock down this war victory. And, I've said it on our show, over the past, couple of months, as the reality of the Ukraine war is setting in, that the war is all but over, it's all but lost, it's done. The U.S. and the West are not going to react rationally to that realization. They're going to lash out violently. We get crazier as reality becomes more and more obvious. And this strikes me as just an outgrowth of that. It does. I mean, we can't prove anything at the moment, but certainly all the elements are there, as you just laid out in that big show of videos and photos.
But I was told by the world's largest YouTube news show with over 5 million subscribers, and I'm sure most of them are real. Young Turks told me that the CIA doesn't do stuff like this anymore, so it must be just exactly.
That's why I say we can't possibly know, because on the other hand, Cenk and Anna said the CIA doesn't do the same.
Because
Camel toe enthusiast, please, Anna Gasparian.
Because Cenk talked to an ex-CIA lady 10 years ago, and she told him they don't do it anymore. So exactly. I mean, that's you got it right from the horse's mouth.
It's like in the OJ trial, like what? Like it looked like the cops didn't deny manipulating evidence, right? So it's like, he's serious, he's guilty, but do we know? That's like that. It's like on the other hand, Cenk and Anna say no. This kind of thing doesn't happen anymore.
So I want to show you a video. This is Ron Paul from 10 years ago, and he's warning about us, that he's saying that there's people inside the government that want to start a war with Russia. That they're reckless and they're crazy, and I'll play it for you. And so this goes right with the terror attack that just happened in Moscow, and so this is him from 10 years ago. Listen to what he has to say.
I speak more from the perspective of the United States taxpayers, and it doesn't serve our interests. We've already spent $5 billion over the last 10 years trying to pick and choose the leadership of Ukraine, and then we participated in the overthrow of the Yanukovych government, and this is when this recent stuff really stirred up. But we've been involved too much, and I take a non-interventionist foreign policy position. It's not our business. It doesn't serve anybody's interests. It's part of the same thing that led us into the disaster in the Middle East. A lot of people die, a lot of money is spent, and we're still suffering the consequences of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there's a threat of the war in Syria. We don't need another threat. The American taxpayers don't want it, and our government thinks they can get away with, well, I know the people don't want a war yet, but we're going to play games and we're going to threaten Russia and we're going to put on sanctions. And they fail to recognize that we have $500 billion of investments in Russia. Russia has $450 billion invested in the West, and all we're doing is trying to stir up more trouble. It makes no sense whatsoever. So it makes a lot of sense for us to mind our own business and let somebody over there solve their own problems.
How in 2014 did you see what so many others, including me, did not, that this was a very big deal, what was happening in Ukraine, and that it might end very badly for us?
Sometimes the people who are running the operation gives you an idea, like Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Hyatt. You think, what are those people doing? But they're such an example of bipartisanship. Yes. They can work with both of them, and they're the worst kind of warmonger. But all you have to do is, you don't have to know all the detail. I try to be very cautious, especially in economics. Well, there's this, and this, and next month there's going to be such and such happen. In Austrian economics, we're taught that you don't know exactly when things are happening, but you can see things coming. It's the same way. You might be able to see our foreign policy coming if you want to go back and observe what happened at the beginning of the last century, yes. With the progressive movement. So the hints are there. I think I think what has helped me over the years is I'm curious. Most people are, but a lot of people aren't that curious. Yes. I want to know why it happened, because still the question I have, like recent things happen. I said, who's going to benefit? Who benefits from these bombs being dropped? Who benefits?
So there you go. There's Ron Paul. And I just want to also show you that not only did we fund ISIS, we create. I wouldn't doubt if they're 100% created by the CIA in the United States, just like Al Qaeda. I mean, Hillary Clinton said we did with the Mujahideen. And so here, this guy, this is the leader of ISIS-K. And so this is read from Wikipedia. So guess what it says? He was born to a family of merchants, blah, blah. He received religious education. According to Iran International and Afghanistan International journalists, this guy, he worked as a subcontractor of a security company and frequented Bagram Airfield. That's a U.S. military base inside Afghanistan. So if they're blaming on ISIS-K, here's a guy who was already working with the United States government in Afghanistan. So anyway, let me bring in Keaton. Anything to add to Ron Paul?
Yeah, well, I mean, not to pick on TYT. I know, not that we have to worry about it, but one of the things that they said in that monologue is that the government is too incompetent to pull any of this stuff off. And no, the government is not incompetent when they want something done. It's just that usually they don't want anything good done. But when they want to start a war, when they want to sow chaos, when they want to sabotage South American, Latin American nations, when they want to occupy and, colonize certain populations, they still have their fastball. They still have their fastball. And that's kind of what I think Ron Paul was talking about there. And so, when they set their mind to it, they can do anything.
Okay, over to Steph. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate shitty coffee? I, for one, really hate shitty coffee, which is why I'm excited to introduce to you a company that's revolting against shitty coffee, and it's called the 1775 Coffee Company. Now, I haven't had it yet because I only drink decaf. Steph has had it. Steph, how do you like it?
I really like it. You know what? I have a French press, and so I've been using my French press and totally enjoying it. It's delicious. It's smooth. So
1775, the world awakened to a new era. And now it's 1775 Coffee Company is bringing you a coffee that embodies that revolutionary spirit. Crafted with passion and precision, our beans are ethically and exclusively sourced from the finest coffee beans farms of Bolivia. Didn't know that. 1775 Coffee Company's farm-to-cup journey ensures the highest quality of authenticity and sustainability from start to finish. With each sip, your palate will recognize and appreciate the dedication and passion that goes into crafting this single-sourced brew. 1775 Coffee Company takes pride in offering customers a truly exceptional coffee experience with their premium coffee collection. But their dedication to this revolution extends beyond the realm of taste. Safeguarding freedom of speech is critical right now, which is why 1775 Coffee Company has joined forces with Rumble in defense of one of our most fundamental rights, freedom of speech. Coffee that's sure to awaken all your senses, including the sense of freedom. So choose 1775 Coffee by going to 1775coffee.com/litter. That's LITTER, and use the code LITTER for 10% off the checkout on your first order. 1775 Coffee, brewed to perfection, crafted with revolution.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy.